Omni Infinity commented, "Fusion with more energy output than was input has thankfully already happened. Should make a video about that and what role resonance plays in that." I think this is a great idea for a discussion. I saw the many headlines everywhere about fusion energy gain the other day, and I wasn't sure what to think. I always rather cynically discount sensational claims like this until I see the data. I started to research it after this comment and learned many things I wish I hadn't. After my research on this subject, I have come to some very upsetting conclusions about it. Vis-a-vis resonance, it is difficult to explain the process resonance plays in their experiment. I apologize that I have no new insights on that. I have seen no use of resonance in what I've read so far. There's not enough elegance in the process that they've used to initiate fusion to require resonance systems. The process they are using to create this reaction is only slightly more elegant than an H-bomb. This is not surprising, as the goal of the lab doing this was never to make terrestrial fusion a closer reality, but to do testing for nuclear weapons research. In fact, I would say I can make a very qualified and evidentiary argument that what they're selling us right now is a politically motivated free energy hoax to hide nuclear weapons research in plain view. A December 13th article by Daniel Clary, Science.org's senior correspondent in the United Kingdom, begins, "More energy out than in. For 7 decades, fusion scientists have chased this elusive goal known as energy gain. At 1 a.m. on 5 December, researchers at the National Ignition Facility in California finally did it, focusing 2.05 megajoules of laser light onto a tiny capsule of fusion fuel and sparking an explosion that produced 3.15 megajoules of energy, the equivalent to about 3 sticks of dynamite. The $3.5 billion NIF began its ignition campaign in 2010. Its laser, housed in a building the size of 3 U.S. football fields, delivers a powerful, nanoseconds-long infrared pulse split into 192 beams that are converted to ultraviolet light. The beams are focused on the target, a gold can the size of a pencil eraser containing a peppercorn-sized fuel capsule containing a deuterium-tritium mix. Heated to millions of degrees, the gold emits X-rays that vaporize the diamond shell of the capsule. The blasted diamond implodes the fuel, compressing and heating it. This is widely hailed and promoted right now as the proof of concept, the holy grail that fusion researchers have been looking for to give the idea of terrestrial fusion as a controlled power source the credibility it has thus far sorely lacked. The sun fuses about 600 million tons of hydrogen every second, yielding 596 million tons of helium. The remaining 4 million tons of hydrogen are converted to energy. Now, imagine 4 million tons converted into kilograms and then multiplied by the speed of light squared, and you get some idea of the amount of energy fusion produces in the sun every second. Terrestrial fusion, therefore, seems like a great idea, a major free energy source. But when you realize the kind of fusion that they actually mean, it is a false bill of goods in this example. The Clary article I cited before also tells us why. NIF was never designed to produce power commercially. Its primary function is to create miniature thermonuclear explosions and provide data to ensure the U.S. arsenal of nuclear weapons is safe and reliable. Right now, the DOE is marketing terrestrial fusion to you in a neat carbon-neutral package which seems to indicate that they are on the trail of a perfect fusion reaction using only simple hydrogen, only producing helium and energy, and able to produce more energy than you put into it. Obviously, they are mistaken. In fact, they're out not lying when they say this. The model of fusion they propose is no better than fission. In fact, it might have more problems. I want to read a short excerpt from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists article by Daniel Jasby of April 19, 2017, entitled "Fusion Reactors Not What They're Cracked Up to Be." Fusion reactions in the sun burn ordinary hydrogen at enormous density and temperature, sustained by an effectively infinite confinement time, and the reaction products are benign helium isotopes. Artificial terrestrial fusion schemes, on the other hand, are restricted to much lower particle densities and much more fleeting energy confinement, and are therefore compelled to use the heavier neutron-rich isotopes of hydrogen known as deuterium and tritium, which are 24 orders of magnitude more reactive than ordinary hydrogen. Think of the numeral 1 with 24 zeros after it. This gargantuan advantage in fusion reactivity allows the human-made fusion assemblies to be workable with 1 billion times lower particle density and 1 trillion times poorer energy confinement than the levels that the sun enjoys. Consequently, the proponents of fusion reactors claim that when they are developed, fusion reactors will constitute a perfect energy source that will share none of the significant drawbacks of the much maligned fission reactors. But unlike what happens in solar fusion, which uses ordinary hydrogen, Earth-bound fusion reactors that burn neutron-rich isotopes have byproducts that are anything but harmless. Energetic neutron streams comprise 80% of the fusion energy output of deuterium-tritium reactions and 35% of deuterium-deuterium reactions. Now, an energy source consisting of 80% energetic neutron streams may be the perfect neutron source, but it's truly bizarre that it would ever be hailed as the ideal electrical energy source. In fact, these neutron streams lead directly to 4 regrettable problems with nuclear energy: radiation damage to structures, radioactive waste, the need for biological shielding, and the potential for the production of weapons-grade plutonium-239, thus adding to the threat of nuclear weapons proliferation, not lessening it as fusion proponents would have it. Further, the author explains why this is not a renewable source of energy when earthbound, because it uses a consumable fuel that we can't make anywhere right now but a fission reactor. The deuterium-tritium reaction is favored by fusion developers because its reactivity is 20 times higher than a deuterium-deuterium fueled reaction, and the former reaction is strongest at 1/3 the temperature required for deuterium-only fusion. In fact, an approximately equal mixture of deuterium and tritium may be the only feasible fusion fuel for the foreseeable future. While deuterium is readily available in ordinary water, tritium scarcely exists in nature because this isotope is radioactive with a half-life of only 12.3 years. The main source of tritium is fission nuclear reactors. This is starting to look like a pattern. Worse, and I think most malicious and unforgivable, they lied that they even achieved more in than they got out. And this is the whole reason that they are trumpeting this achievement, and it's a complete fabrication, and they admit it. The earlier article from Daniel Clary I cited you finishes with this short passage, which everyone who's heard the headline should know. They openly admit they didn't actually make more power than they used. They just only mentioned the laser input figure and forgot to mention the small detail of the energy that the laser used. Clary says, if gain meant producing more output energy than input electricity, however, NIF fell far short. Its lasers are inefficient, requiring hundreds of megajoules of electricity to produce the 2 megajoules of laser light and the 3 megajoules of fusion energy. Moreover, a power plant based on NIF would need to raise the repetition rate from 1 shot per day to about 10 per second. 1 million capsules a day would need to be made, filled, positioned, blasted, and cleared away, a huge engineering challenge. The NIF scheme has another inefficiency. It relies on indirect drive, in which the laser blasts the gold can to generate the X-rays that actually spark fusion. Only about 1% of the laser energy gets into the fuel, he says. He favors direct drive, an approach pursued by his lab where laser beams fire directly onto a fuel capsule and deposit 5% of their energy, but DOE has never funded a program to develop inertial fusion for power generation. He just said that actually it required hundreds of megajoules of input to produce 3 megajoules of output, that it would require 1 million fuel capsules a day, and was never funded as a renewable energy resource project by the Department of Energy. So, thus far we've learned that terrestrial fusion is 1. Not the same as solar, 2. Just as dangerous as fission, 3. Not renewable by a long shot, 4. Not actually ever successfully achieved with gain, 5. Not being researched for the purpose of energy production. So why would they lie about this? It makes no sense to lie about an energy source that you haven't actually realized and will never make a dime off of, so why did they do it? Of course, we know that since it was a government lab, all of the politicians in power right now take every excuse they can for a victory lap, especially in popular causes like climate change and renewable energy. But it's much worse than that. In an article from energy.gov, the Department of Energy website, entitled DOE National Laboratory Makes History by Achieving Fusion Ignition, they tell us why they were actually doing it. Now, the article is mostly praise and backpatting, but then you read something like this stuck innocuously in the middle where you might miss it. This is a landmark achievement for the researchers and staff at the National Ignition Facility who have dedicated their careers to seeing fusion ignition become a reality, and this milestone will undoubtedly spark even more discovery, said U.S. Secretary of Energy Jennifer M. Granholm. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to supporting our world-class scientists like the team at NIF, whose work will help us solve humanity's most complex and pressing problems, like providing clean power to combat climate change and maintaining a nuclear deterrent without nuclear testing. I think we found our answer right there. This latest experiment is nothing more than the bold-faced fabrication, a hoax of a monumental scientific achievement for the purpose of the justification in plain sight of the theoretical research and testing of small-scale nuclear devices.